two. During the heat of the game, it's clear he's a champ when all else disappears. Rally the team with a wink and a cheer. He's the leader that everyone fears. Quickly, it's a real heater. Once my friend, he's a locker room leader. In the chaos, he's the center, turning us into believers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday night. It is 8 p.m. That means it is time once again for the Locker Room Breakdown, the Rasslin recap, a look back at everything that has happened in the past week in the WWE, and a look at the things to come. Tonight's episode, all filler, no killer, is just a personal reflection on what I felt happened, especially between this past Friday and what is to come tomorrow, and even leading into SummerSlam this next weekend. And just a bit of a programming note, once again, ladies and gentlemen, next Sunday, this show will be preempted by the PLE Patrol as Chris Best and company break down and give you everything you need to know during SummerSlam. Both nights 1 and 2. I will personally be on vacation, away from the computer, away from town, and away from home. So yes, there will be no Rasslin recap next week. But let's get started, because Raw was clearly the better show, in my opinion, this week, as we dealt with the fallout from Saturday night's main event. Now, we're not used to this, but Monday Night Raw started off with a match. But I have to ask, what is happening with the Vision? Supposed to be this new dominant group, powering through, owning. We know that they've had the injuries that have caught up to them. Braun Breaker went down as he was ready to come back. Bronson Reed went down as we are awaiting his return. Logan Paul has gone down. So we've got Austin Theory and Braun Breaker. No Paul Heyman potentially aligned with them anymore, but they have added Maxine Dupree. But this was a group that should have been taking the main event scene. And here they are, opening up Monday Night Raw in a non-title match, as Austin Theory and Braun Breaker took to the ring to take on VonEvans and Dragon Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, I was not overly thrilled about this match when I first found out about it, but this match stepped up, it delivered, and it really did set the tone for Monday Night Raw. Yes, the baby faces got off to the electric start, as is typical. The heels took over, controlled the flow. The baby faces mounted the comeback. But in the end, it was distraction and interference from both Logan Paul and Maxine Dupree that really cost Dragon and Javon. It was a non-title match, so we didn't have to worry about VonEvans and Dragon Lee coming out as your new tag team champions. And I'm good with that, because we need more true tag teams, not just teams that are thrown together. As the Vision proceeded to beat down on on Evans and Lee, post-match, it did lead to the Alpha Academy coming out to try and make the save, only for them to get beaten down, with Maxine Dupree looking on from the top rope, really sort of admiring her handiwork. And I know it was referred to last week by our very own Carl Carafel as a Timu version of Liv and Dom with Theory and Maxine. But I'm liking this version of Maxine. We haven't seen her do the heel role very often. We've seen a beautiful promo from her about a year ago, and then it was just back to the same old, same old. Now we just need to get Maxine back into the ring and back competing. But I like this. This is growth. This is evolution for Maxine's character. I don't necessarily agree with the Timu version of Liv and Dom because I think that is really, really running its course. And I think it's both of those situations. You are seeing the female elevated. We saw what Liv could do. She has become obviously the most improved female wrestler, especially in the last 5 years. And she is just fantastic. And I hope we see the same for Maxine. But the vision just isn't the vision. It needs some form of direction. It does not need to be opening shows. It needs to be closing the shows, controlling the show, dictating what goes on. So we're now going to go to Danhausen and the Judgment Day and maybe some situations that we saw a little too much of this past Monday. We saw Danhausen get confronted backstage by the Judgment Day and then go out to the ring because the Judgment Day wanted their money back. As Danhausen would put it, human monies. But what ended up happening was Danhausen went out to the ring, opted to give that money to the WWE Universe, which then led to the Judgment Day coming out and Danhausen escaping. And a Joe Hendry save in this situation. Joe Hendry was involved with the Street Profits and the Vision. All of a sudden now, the Street Profits are done within the tag team title picture. No. Yes, you're trying to build sympathy for Tozawa and Otis, but now you've got Joe Hendry getting involved in something he doesn't need to be doing. Like, really, this is Joe Hendry. This was your top signing last summer, and you're blowing it with him. You're sticking him in meaningless feuds, meaningless scenarios. This is a guy that could be in contention for the Intercontinental Championship, and you've got him feuding over nothing. So after that finishes up, we go backstage again, where the Judgment Day confront Danhausen. This is 3 segments in a row of the Judgment Day and Danhausen. Like I said, it was a little bit much, a lot of overkill, especially because there was nothing at this point in the night as it pertained to SummerSlam. However, the Judgment Day were able to get the bag of money, only to find it all glued together, looking like a puzzle, which ticked off J.D. McDonough, who threw it right into the face of Obafemi. Really? Really, folks? Obafemi, the guy who is getting ready for Hell in a Cell, is now getting stuck in a situation like this. And Oba proceeded to then call out JD McDonough for a match, which we got. As well, it was also made official that we would get Dom Mysterio versus Joe Hendry later in the show. Why wouldn't we get that then maybe for the AAA Mega Championship? Why wouldn't we have Adam Pearce say, Dom, you're putting the belt on the line against him? Why don't we get something like that? No, we get Joe Hendry versus Dom Mysterio. Nothing on the line. And what was going to be a pointless match. I know you're trying to establish some superstars. I know you're trying to build that next wave. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to do right by your current crop of superstars. And this, for me, just really didn't sit well. But we continue on with this saga as JD McDonough and Dom Mysterio go out to the ring to face for JD to take on Obafemi one-on-one. JD was one of Oba's earliest matches when he came to the main roster. It was pointless then. It's pointless now. A guy featured in one of the biggest matches for SummerSlam, taking on a guy with nothing going on, but a guy, again, who should be in the thick of that Intercontinental Championship picture. Or let him and Dom team up and challenge for those tag team championships. You're looking for true tag teams. There you go. It is built right in there. But no, we don't get that at all. And we get Obafemi simply laying waste to JD. Yes, Dom tried to get involved, but it meant absolutely nothing. At this point, you've now taken the Vision and dropped them down the scale. You've now taken the Judgment Day and dropped them down the scale, when these are two factions that should be leading the charge and on a potential head-to-head collision course to face each other. But again, the numbers for each group just don't play into it. This, I don't know what WWE Creative is thinking. I don't know what they're doing. They decimated the tag division earlier this year with the releases. They decimated their mid-card roster with the releases. And I know part of it has to do with SmackDown having to go back to 2 hours. And we'll get into that when we, again, do the SmackDown review and preview for next week. Can we get some intrigue in here? We had Solo Sikoa who came out saying, I don't go here. I don't normally go here. I don't belong on this show. But he asked for Seth Rollins. Very, very interesting, because we have seen throughout time, Seth Rollins told him, look, I'm not going to help you because I'm not going to help a wannabe Roman Reigns. I'm not going to help a wannabe tyrant. I'm not going to help that tyrant. So what are we doing here? Seth asked him as he came out. Are we fighting or are we talking? Well, Solo opted to chat. And I like this from Solo. We're seeing that new side. Even when he was leading the MFTs, he was trying to do more of the talking, not so much of the in-ring in terms of leading them. Very, very reminiscent of Roman Reigns. So I got those comparisons. He, for a while, had Paul Heyman leading the MFTs after Paul Heyman had left the Bloodline. Again, very, very reminiscent. But, or no, sorry, Paul Heyman hadn't left the Bloodline, but Roman Reigns was at home or on hiatus after having lost the WWE Championship. But Solo told Seth, look, I know the playbook. I know what they're going to call. I can help you. I've got your back if you'll have me. And I know I've got the match out here at SummerSlam with LA Knight and Royce Keys taking on the Bloodline. But we can still have your back. They both get interrupted by Jacob Fatu. Absolutely love it because Fatu, of course, is Bloodline and has to worry about Seth Rollins potentially dethroning Roman Reigns. But he's also got that six-man tag against Solo, LA Knight, and Royce Keys at SummerSlam. Again, Jacob cannot figure out and understand why Solo is doing this, why Solo won't come home and rejoin the family. But as he came out, Solo left. Solo doing the smart thing, and again, being that tweener, being caught in the am I a heel, am I a babyface, did the heel thing and left the ring so that Jacob couldn't put hands on him ahead of his match later in the night, as Jacob Fatu was going to take on LA Knight. And Jacob did eat a super kick from Seth Rollins as a clear warning shot to Roman Reigns. This did leave Jacob standing in that ring extremely ticked off. And I don't blame him. So what version of Solo do we get at SummerSlam? Is he putting everybody on? Is he going to go back and become that enforcer for Roman Reigns? Is he going to become the guy to team with his brother Jimmy to go after the tag team titles? Does he get Jacob to team with him again and go back to SmackDown to take those tag team titles? A lot of different moving parts. Or do we see Solo remain Solo? Folks, a lot of questions to answer. We're going to give you my answers a little bit later on, because we are going to cover SummerSlam as well here tonight. But again, this goes to the Rollins-Reigns feud. What we saw at Saturday night's main event 2 nights earlier was Roman coming out being the true babyface for this match, and Seth Rollins being the heel when he came out when he had Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers show up in New York City, as Roman Reigns was in the ring coronating Jalen Brunson as a king of New York. But this is a case where both men have been faces, both men have been heels, both men are anti-heroes. And in this situation, I think they're both the anti-heroes. So there is no clearly defined line on who to cheer and who to boo. So, again, is it really, really needed. I do hope that we get some finality to Rollins and Reigns at SummerSlam. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I want to see this match again in 2030 or 2031. I don't want to see this match in 2027. I hope that we get the finality to all of this. On to another tag team match, pitting SummerSlam opponents as tag team partners, as Chad Gable and Penta took on the team of Ethan Page and Rusev. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking for tag teams to challenge. And I know that we can sit there and say that they threw Page and Rusev together, which a month and a half ago might have been true. These two have gelled extremely well. The chemistry is there. Maybe you need to put them into the tag team championship picture. And again, not have the two baby faces who are going to be taking each other on at SummerSlam teaming up to take on two guys who have both competed for the title fairly recently, especially when there's no Intercontinental Championship implications involved in this match for Ethan Page or Rusev. Depending on what happens at SummerSlam, I wonder if that is where you go. And we will, again, discuss SummerSlam a little bit later on tonight, folks. But again, ladies and gentlemen, this is one where you should have had maybe a little bit of conflict arise between the two competitors for the Intercontinental Championship, either during or after the match. Whether it was a miscommunication, a missed move, something, and have them take the loss. Because right now, Ethan Page and Rusev are on the outside looking in. These are two guys who should be competing at SummerSlam, not awaiting what's going to happen tomorrow night and then what's going to happen the week after. Because, quite frankly, these two should be involved, and we're not getting enough championship representation at SummerSlam on a weekend where I think that every title should be not only showcased, but actually defended. But nope. Chad Gable and Penta do pick up the victory. They win it clean. Chad even gets the Intercontinental Championship and hands it back to Penta, who graciously accepts it, doesn't just rip it out of his hand. We had the handshake. We got the respect. I'm all for respect in the ring. I'm all about it after a match with your opponent. With your partner, you already respect them. This is now a case of you're teaming with your opponent and a guy you're going to go and beat the snot out of in 2 weeks' time. And this is how it is. This is supposed to be a rivalry because that was how this all started. We know that Chad went on the apology tour. We know that they've made peace, and that's fine. But this all started with Penta and Chad. This now needs, and it's going to end with Penta and Chad. It again depends on who is coming out victorious. But this needs finality. And again, this needs that heel babyface dynamic. So I'm going to suggest this. I do hope that we get Penta Dark at SummerSlam. All right. back to the shenanigans and the overkill of Danhausen and the Judgment Day as we move on to Joe Hendry versus Dominic Mysterio. Again, nothing on the line, nothing of any value. This was Joe Hendry getting Dominic Mysterio because he stuck his nose into business that didn't even concern him earlier in the night. I think Joe Hendry would have been better suited for SmackDown than he is for Raw. But ladies and gentlemen, again, we're seeing a lot of filler. But before this match came about, it was announced that we would get Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam. This one started off a little bit differently. Dominic came out of the gate swinging, building the momentum early, taking it to Joe, who did fight back. We got the interference from Liv Morgan, who was, of course, at ringside with Daddy Dom, which led to Io Sky coming out, catching her. Neither of them got physically involved or made contact with Joe Hendry or Dominic to cause a disqualification. This was a situation that was just another rivalry and another match for SummerSlam getting involved in a match that really had no type of implication. All this served to was push Io Sky and Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. This match really was nothing to write home about. In the end, it was Joe Hendry picking up the win. But again, this would have helped if Dom had anything of value, if you would have put the AAA Mega Championship on the line. And I hope to God they do that sometime soon, folks. I know we saw it a few weeks ago, but if you want to get AAA more exposure, you can have that title defended on a regular basis, not just at AAA, but on Raw. You've got the representation with the AAA Tag Team Champions and the Latin American Champion on SmackDown in Rey Fenix and the War Raiders. But give them something. Give it some intrigue. Put some mustard on it, let's say, ladies and gentlemen. WWE Creative, it is time to poop or get off the pot. Okay, because right now, you are literally, you're not suspending my disbelief. You are filling airtime and making my brain cells suffer. This, however, was the only true segment involving the women on Monday Night Raw. And this was, ladies and gentlemen, folks, the women's division is the hottest it has ever been. They are kicking the men's asses in the ring when it comes to setting the bar. And this was the female representation outside of a couple of interviews during the commercial breaks. On to the main event. LA Knight and Jacob Fatu. What should have been a monumental main event, maybe broken down to something a little bit more, And LA Knight overshadows it by cutting a promo on Roman Reigns, on Seth Rollins, and on his own tag team partner, Solo Sikoa, for coming out here, talking to Seth Rollins and offering his assistance. This promo dragged on a little too long for me. And really, I mean, you're getting two of the guys from a six-man tag for SummerSlam meeting in the ring in the main event. Great. Save the promos for a video package. And I know I've complained about those. But save that for a video package. You could have done it in a backstage interview with Knight real quick, too. And let him talk to you. Yeah. But, I mean, Jacob Fatu took control of this match early. He held control. Of course, LA Knight got his offense in, able to mount the comeback. Jimmy Uso appears at ringside. And again, Solo Sikoa showing up. Did we really need this main event match to break down for the six-man tag at SummerSlam? Probably not. Yes, it's going to further sell the story. But honestly, we saw LA Knight in a six-man tag at WrestleMania, and what's he done on a PLE since? He's opening the shows, and quite frankly, for a guy of his caliber who should be, whether at least in a mid-card title, upper mid-card, potentially challenging for the main event, he's in six-man tags at two of the biggest PLEs of the year. Royce Keys also showed up during this match, which brought out Jey Uso. So again, you had this whole thing break down to the 3-on-3, the six men battling each other. There was no passion, nothing to really draw us in. Ladies and gentlemen, a solid show, but not a spectacular show. It was probably a little better watching it live than coming back to review it. But, ladies and gentlemen, that leaves us with what happens tomorrow. In the end, it was Jacob Fatu picking up the win. But this needs to stop. And I know that Roman and Seth is going to be your main event of night 2 at SummerSlam. But why is the six-man tag team match overshadowing that situation? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to come right back here in just a moment to preview what happens here tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take a look, because we could use some help here at Turnbuckle Studios.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, video games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today, because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. If you have ever wanted your break in podcasting, content creation, or to help us behind the scenes, hit that join button, send us your credentials via email. Tell us how you can help us, how we can help you, and we will sit down as a collective and find the right fit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night, Monday Night Raw comes to us from Los Angeles. They went from Detroit to LA and back to Minnesota for SummerSlam. And I am talking about all filler, no killer. We've got a non-title tag team match yet again between the Vision against Otis and Tozawa, the Alpha Academy. Again, you don't have the Vision on SummerSlam. Why are you not defending the tag team titles against this sympathetic tag team of Otis and Tozawa, who literally just saw Maxine walk away after sticking it to the Street Profits instead of them, and then stabbing them in the back a week later. This should be for the titles, and I hope, I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that Tozawa and Otis pull off the victory to get the tag team title match, though I don't believe it will be added to SummerSlam. I believe it will come the Monday following SummerSlam. Ladies and gentlemen, again, what has happened to the Vision? Yes, you're building up what was a comedy tag team in Otis and Tozawa to where they are now, and I hope to God they get the victory so that you can really put them over instead of just having them in these backstage comedic segments that they were involved in, and give them an actual shot. You got to give Breaker and Theory some true competition. Otherwise, those tag team championships will fade away and be classified as obsolete. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to use a Hardy Boys reference compare the tag team champions right now. The Vision as a group is really obsolete. And I'm going to suggest this. Maybe this is the time. Since you don't have the Vision on SummerSlam, maybe this is the situation where you bring back Bronson Reed to have him cost Otis and Tozawa the tag team titles. Maybe you have him come in and absolutely crush Otis. Or have him crush Tozawa, which leaves Otis open to really go on that good, solid singles run instead of being left to his own devices in catering. We are also going to again get VonEvans taking on Rusev. Why, ladies and gentlemen? I've said it. This is just a match to fill a spot on the card. All filler, no killer. There's no Intercontinental Championship match implications. Nobody's going to get added to SummerSlam. This is just WWE Creative spinning their wheels. They're stuck in the mud with those two. This is not a match I really need nor want to see. Speaking of another match that I don't really need nor want to see, for the exact same reasons as I just mentioned above, again, no Intercontinental Championship match implications, no contention implications. Rey Mysterio will take on Ethan Page. All filler, no killer. You're looking to fill a spot on the card. Yes, it's going to be an entertaining match, but it's just not needed. Rey, I know he's an active competitor on Raw, but right now I think his focus needs to be on being the GM in AAA. And given what happened on Saturday night there, I hope that we get some type of effect tomorrow on Raw. Do I believe we're going to get it? No, This is, again, a filler position, nothing to do. Now, the big match of the night, the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Sol Ruca will once again defend against Raquel Rodriguez. This is a situation where I don't need or want to see the Judgment Day get involved. We saw last week during a commercial break former Women's Intercontinental Championship champion Lyra Valkyria come out and interrupt an interview with Raquel, saying, it doesn't matter if it's you or Sol, I'm coming to take that title back after I'm done. Do I believe we're going to get Lyra Valkyria interference? No, but I would much rather see that Women's Intercontinental Championship being defended at SummerSlam, especially when you hotshotted somebody like Sol Ruca into that position, and now you haven't done anything with her on a PLE. And again, another title not being showcased at SummerSlam. But does Raquel have Liv? Does Raquel have Roxanne? Because I think in this situation, she can't. If she wants that Intercontinental Championship, she cannot have them get involved, because that will lead to Io Sky coming out to cost and send a message to the Judgment Day. Does this become a position, again, where you could potentially see the return of Stephanie Vicaire? Possibly. I don't believe so. And I think for Lyra Valkyria, as much, and I want to see Raquel win the Intercontinental Championship, I think Lyra would have been better served going to SmackDown and taking a spot in that ladder match, stealing that position somehow, and you put the belt on her. But we'll cover that. But I am going to take Raquel Rodriguez one more time to win the Women's Intercontinental Championship. But again, she needs absolute cooperation. She cannot have Liv and Roxanne get involved on her behalf. Even if she has to handcuff them to each other in the locker room to prevent that interference. This needs to be Raquel's time. And then, yes, you can go to that Raquel versus Raquel versus Lyra and others in a multi-woman match. You could add it at SummerSlam, but I think it's a little bit too late for that now. Hell in a Cell at SummerSlam between Brock Lesnar and Obafemi is a week away. And on Monday, we are going to have a weigh-in. Folks, we know that these are two super heavyweights. We know that this is going to be absolute carnage inside Hell in a Cell, and perhaps the longest of the three matches they'll have. But a weigh-in? This isn't the UFC, and yes, we know that TKO owns WWE, they own UFC. Are you bringing Dana White in to officiate? That would be fantastic. No, it's going to be moderated by Triple H. We're going to get the stare down. I would not be surprised if this leads to the physicality and the brutality as we saw when they were trying to do the contract signing for WrestleMania. Again, this is not something that is needed. If you're going to have the weigh-in, that's fine. But again, do it like you did with WrestleMania. Have one in the back, do the weigh-in, get the weights put out there. Have the other one go in and do it. We don't need this as a face-to-face, breaking down and potentially one of them injuring the other pre-Hell in a Cell for SummerSlam, because then you just cost yourselves a match. I am intrigued because a weigh-in is not something we see very often. But again, just like a contract signing, this stuff always ends up in the BS of a beatdown. And both guys are going to tear at each other. They're going to get at each other. And I got to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, for this segment, I have to hope that this opens the show. Yes, this has to open the show tomorrow on Raw. Because then you can get it done, get it over with, and actually get on to the meat of the show. And then if you're going to do that, you can bookend it with the other thing of importance for Monday Night Raw. That is the face-to-face between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. We know the history. They know the history. They've been promoting the history through video packages and all of that. Seth and Roman have said all they have to say. We've seen the physicality between them already. Again, not something we truly, truly need. Though I do believe we're going to get it. I don't need this to get physical. This needs to be Seth and Roman getting into each other's head. We don't need the rest of the bloodline. We don't need Royce Keys, Solo Sikoa, and LA Knight getting involved in all of this. Again, this is just not needed. This is, again, ladies and gentlemen, all filler, no killer. Ladies and gentlemen, that. Oh, and I'm sorry, again, one other thing that I forgot to mention. We are also going to get a Joe Hendry and Danhausen concert. Yes, that's right. Joe Hausen, Hendryhausen, Dan Hendry, whatever you want to call it, we're getting them in concert tomorrow. And I can only imagine that this is going to lead to a tag team match with the Judgment Day. Again, there is nothing on the line because JD and Joe don't have matches at SummerSlam. Dom and Danhausen is not for the AAA Mega Championship. So, all filler, no killer. That is just how I see Monday Night Raw shaping up tomorrow. But, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of programming, we have something for you here each and every night of the week.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays let us power your dreams with the Xbox Showcase at 9 p.m. Friday we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Rasslin Recap Delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and there is something for you each and every day of the week. And you can check out each of those shows under the shows section, including this one, which will go up in just a little while. And we want you to meet the team behind those shows. Myself, Chris Best, Chris Parrish, Bubba Duke, Logan Thompson, and the Godfather himself, Carl Carafel. Click on our individual links to get our socials and watch our own latest weekly live episodic programming. All of that and more at turnbucklestudios.org. SmackDown. Again, ladies and gentlemen, nothing of true substance. We had the contract signing between Nick Aldis and Gunther right off the bat. Nick Aldis relinquishing his position and all responsibilities as general manager to make this match official. We had seen this match get made earlier in the week, or the previous weekend, at the SummerSlam kickoff party. And Nick Aldis also said that WWE is not responsible. So I don't know if this is an unsanctioned match. I don't know if this is there's a hold harmless agreement. I didn't actually see this segment on SmackDown because I just finished work as SmackDown kicked off. But the clips I have seen, because apparently Gunther also told him that this is going to be the greatest moment of his career, but it's beneath Gunther. It's going to be the greatest moment of Nick Aldis' career. And yet, WWE has done nothing to showcase Nick Aldis and what he has done in the ring. The fact that he is a former NWA World's Champion and carried the 10 pounds of gold. The fact that he is a former TNA and Impact Wrestling World Champion. They did mention it. But what I saw, and all I am getting out of this situation between Gunther and Nick Aldis, don't cross the boss. Austin McMahon, anyone? Really? That's where we're going. 26 years later, and we're still stuck on don't cross the boss and the Austin McMahon situation. That is what I am getting out of all of this. Again, yes, this turned into a fight. Gunther hitting a low blow and putting Nick Aldis through the table. Will Nick Aldis go back to being a GM post SummerSlam? Does he move over to Raw as the GM? Or do we get Nick Aldis, whether it's Magnus, whether it's the National Treasure, getting back in the ring and actually becoming a competitor, which I would love to see. So, again, I think that Nick Aldis needs this win at SummerSlam to give him the opportunity to compete in the WWE. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we had new women's tag team champions crowned at Saturday night's main event in Fatal Influence. On Friday, we got Lainey Reed, one half of your women's tag team champions, taking on one half of the former tag team champions in Brie Bella. Great match. Understood the story behind it. You knew what they were trying to get to, which was hopefully going to be your women's tag team championship rematch at SummerSlam. Due to chaos and distractions on the outside, Lainey Reed was in a lot of control. Brie Bella proving why she is the better of the two Bellas when it comes to in-ring. And yes, her husband plays a huge part in that. But the distractions ended up costing Lainey Reed as Brie Bella picked up the victory and stole the win to get jumped by Fatal Influence, who were putting the beat down on her for the monumental return, ladies and gentlemen, of Nikki Bella, who came out to make the save. Brie's the better wrestler. Nikki far more accomplished on the mic. And guess what? We got a 6-woman tag for SummerSlam. So yes, the women's tag team championships are going to be on the show, but they're not being represented. They're not being defended. This is a huge disservice to those championships and to truly putting Fatal Influence on the map on a marquee PLE. But no, at SummerSlam instead, we are going to get the Bellas teaming with Paige to take on Fatal Influence. Again, we will cover SummerSlam a little bit later on here tonight, folks. And then we go backstage and we get an impromptu promo from Sami Zayn, who was being interrupted, but then interrupts Adam Pearce, who tells him, you're going to face the winner of a fatal 4-way later tonight at SummerSlam to determine the number 1 contender. Because you're right, Cody, all he had to do was just say when. CM Punk gets handed a title shot because we're in Chicago, and the title opportunity fell from the sky. So now Sami Zayn has to go back out and earn another opportunity when he should have that automatic rematch and should have just been put into the title picture. We're going to come to that again a little bit later on, but that fatal 4-way match was made. Trick Williams, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Royce Keys. Great match, but it was really no point because you knew Royce Keys was going to had the 6-man tag. Damian Priest needs to get back to that title picture. Finn Balor just recently had 2 shots. And Trick Williams, your U.S. champion. So none of them made any sense to actually win this match. All right, we move to our first women's ladder match qualifier to determine who will become the interim WWE Women's Champion on SmackDown. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a big fan of this interim champion. I don't like it. The title should have been vacated given Rhea's injury and her history. You can still give Rhea the title match when she comes back, but no, now we're going to crown an interim champion and then whoever wins will face Rhea when she is ready. BS. BS. This isn't UFC, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't AEW, and they've gotten away from doing that. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is pure BS. This does not need to be happening. But Chelsea Green and Kiana James, they met to determine who would get in and join Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton in that match. Okay, interesting combination. Two women who both deserved the opportunity. Personally, I would have preferred Kiana James, but it was Chelsea Green picking up the victory in what was an entertaining match. Not as good as some as previous Kiana James outings. But again, this was a match that didn't even get a commercial break. But again, we know that Chelsea has history in ladder matches. She's the one that got pushed off the ladder when Tiffany Stratton won Money in the Bank a couple of years ago in Toronto. Do we need a repeat of that at SummerSlam in this interim championship ladder match? I don't think so. But are we going to get that repeat moment? Just going the opposite direction. Is it going to be Chelsea Green pushing Tiffany off the ladder through the tables in this position? And especially in her home state. We did go backstage as we saw Tiffany Stratton being interviewed, and she was interrupted by Blake Monroe, who made it clear she was targeting Tiffany and the Women's United States Championship. Again, either poop or get off the pot, WWE. Do something with Blake Monroe. Not just these backstage segments. Put her in the ring, not just once a month. Give her some reps. Give her that opportunity to showcase what she can do. But again, ladies and gentlemen, nothing has really stood out here. This was, as the show says, all filler, no killer. Then we get a face-to-face between CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, who have said everything, done everything. And again, you don't have a heel going into your WWE Undisputed Championship match. You've got Punk as the clear-cut babyface. Cody right now can maybe be looked as the tweener in this situation, given the circumstances. But for him to come out and say, yeah, I love you, I respect you, but I don't like you. Huh? What? CM Punk saying, you know, I kept to my word. I told you I would come out here and I would stab you in the front instead of sticking it to you in the back. I mean, we've heard it all before from them in other promos leading up to other PLEs. Why do we need to rehash the same promo between the same two guys? Cody did raise some valid points saying, I listened to your pipe bomb 14 years ago, but I went out and did it, even knowing that all of them, they wished it was you that had gone out and done this. I'm the one that went out and did it. But again, this was just to fill airtime. And ladies and gentlemen, SmackDown has gone back to 2 hours. I could understand filling airtime if it was 3 hours, but the 3 hour shows provided so much more depth. And again, Raw found that happy medium in that 2 hour, 2.5 hour range. I know that USA Network really dictates Raw's schedule or SmackDown's schedule. And those of us watching it on Netflix have to handle that. But you need SmackDown in that 2.5 hour range and give us something to build on. We go to our second women's ladder match qualifier. Nia Jax getting another opportunity to qualify for the ladder match at SummerSlam as she took on the woman who got her disqualified the previous week, Charlotte Flair. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Jade Cargill came down and got Nia Jax disqualified because she jumped on Charlotte Flair. Why? You now have two women who should be having a one-on-one match at SummerSlam in Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair, stuck in a ladder match that neither of them have the opportunity to win because they're going to take each other out. But I digress, folks. We will cover that after we preview SmackDown here in just a little while. On to our main event, and there were a lot of questions to be answered about this. Because Damian Priest, one half of your World Tag Team Champions, has been dealing with the War Raiders coming, saying, we want to take you on title for title. He's also had a history with Royce Keys of not trusting him, despite the fact that they come from similar backgrounds. Not the same background, not the same place. Finn Balor, who he's been a tag team champion with, who he's been allies with, and who he's fought. And Trick Williams, your U.S. champion. Ladies and gentlemen, I chose Damian Priest to win this match. The rest of the Turnbuckle Affiliation program picked Finn Balor to win. I didn't need Finn Balor winning. He's just had two remarkable championship matches prior to moving to SmackDown. And yes, he had stuff going on with the MFTs, and I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't over. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't cost him the title. But, I mean, back and forth, great action all around. Everybody got it in. We saw the street fight aspect. We saw Priest work with Finn and then take him out at the same time. This was perhaps the match of the night, though it didn't make sense for any of them to actually be there. It was Finn Balor who picked up the victory and will now face Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. We also did get Solo Sikoa showing up in this match to help Royce Keys. And the Usos did show up as well, as did LA Knight. So again, the six-man tag may seem to be the hottest storyline going in to SummerSlam. But it's not needed to take over every match any of these guys are in. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time around the block. And we'll be right back with the SmackDown preview. But ladies and gentlemen, please check out our shop.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and we encourage you to check out our shop. It is powered by redbubble.com, so it is 100% safe and secure. Support your favorite shows and your favorite podcasters. Wear what we wear. All of the proceeds come back into our studios to bring you a better experience. And when you make that purchase, tag us on the socials. Tell us what you bought. Show us what you bought. Send us a photo. We'll give you a shout out here live on air during one or more of our weekly programs. All of that and more, turnbucklestudios.org. Bobby Petito coming in here saying good evening. And I very much appreciate the fact that you liked the video on YouTube. Thank you so much. That means the absolute world to not only myself, but to all of us here at Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. We don't have a whole lot to announce and preview for this coming Friday. We do have our fifth and final women's elimination, and we appreciate you being in the chat. The women's ladder match qualifier, as Lash legend Nia Jax's tag team partner, who is probably going to have issues if she's the one to qualify, with Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair, taking on Julia, who we haven't seen in a while. And maybe this is the situation you need for Julia. Put her in this match. And I suggest putting her in this match because you can have Nia and Lash team up, run over Jade and Charlotte individually, run over B-Fab and Michin, and get themselves back into that women's tag team championship picture as well. But again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a match that I don't really need. And I hope they give this match some time and allow both of these women, because we haven't seen either in quite a while on TV. So give this match some time. Let it play out. Let it tell the story it absolutely needs to. And I mentioned it earlier during the four-way. We've got the War Raiders taking on Damian Priest and R-Truth, the WWE Tag Team Championships and the AAA Tag Team Championships, title for title. We know that Damian Priest recently made his debut in AAA. And I have to wonder if that is going to play a factor in all of this. Bobby coming in saying Julia should be in the ladder match. He wishes Jordan Grace or Ivy Nile were there too. 100% with you. 100% with you, Bobby. But I think this is the situation that Julia truly, truly needs. Do we have the War Raiders, who are an established tag team? And I like this because they are an established tag team, come in and dethrone Priest and R-Truth, become your new tag team champions. Then you can have Truth focus on stuff with a guy like Royce Keys that he's been dealing with. Focus on potentially a mid-card championship run, and you can get Damian Priest back to becoming the ass kicker that he truly is. We need him to become the Punisher again. And maybe, just maybe, it is time for that Damian Priest heel turn to lay out truth, get himself back, and refocus, re-envision himself into a power position of dominance. That is what I need from Damian Priest. But that is all they gave us for SmackDown. So, ladies and gentlemen, one more time around the block, and I'm going to come right back to preview SummerSlam. So I'm going to have you take a look at a couple of different ads here right now.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, video games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, turnbucklestudios.org is your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. All the information on how to join us is there. So if you've ever wanted to become a podcaster, create content, then email us. Tell us how you can help us. And of course, support us. Go to our shop and wear what we wear. We will shout you out live on air when you make a purchase. And we will improve our studios to make things better for you to watch us. All of that and more, turnbucklestudios.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have 12 matches for SummerSlam. 4 of which I believe are truly PLE worthy. I'm going to break down 6 of them. We're going to run another ad, and then I'm going to break down the other 6. And I'm going to start with the first of the 4 matches that I believe is truly PLE worthy. Gunther and Nick Aldis. This is a situation where Nick Aldis really needs the victory. We need to get Gunther away from the career killer moniker. And we need to see what Nick Aldis can do, see if he has lost a step in the ring. But we need to know what Nick Aldis we're getting. Are we getting the National Treasure? Are we getting Magnus? We know, based on what happened on Friday, that WWE is not responsible for what happens. We don't know if this is unsanctioned or if there's a hold harmless agreement. But we need Nick Aldis to win. So I am going to take Nick Aldis to win that match. All right, I'm going to move on to the six-man tag match. The Bloodline versus LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Solo Sikoa. The Bloodline have the cohesion. They have that family aspect. They know what everybody is thinking. The wild card in all of this, and I'm going to actually go 2 wild cards because Big Jimmy Uso has been trying to be that bridge between the Bloodline and the main roster. He was the guy that was willing to go out and talk to LA Knight. So he is the wild card on the Bloodline side. Then you've got LA Knight, Royce Keys, who, yes, he competed in the Royal Rumble, but this is Royce's true PLE debut. And then the wild card, Solo Sikoa. Does he turn on his family? Or does he turn on Royce in LA to rejoin the family? Or does Solo do what he needs to do and remain solo? Give me LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Solo Sikoa to go home with this match. This really could set everything in motion for your World Heavyweight Championship match, which I will cover in just a little while. But I'm going to go to a match that really is more worthy of Raw, SmackDown, or pre-show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a pre-show match. Because again, nothing on the line. Danhausen and Dirty Dom. Is Danhausen going to have Joe Hendry there to watch his back? We know Dom will likely have JD McDonough. Is this a situation where Dom and JD get back their human monies from Danhausen, even if they eat the loss via countout to escape with the money? Or is this a situation where, is this just that comedy match? Is this that comedy spot that you need? Is this that fourth match of the night where people get up to get themselves a snack and go to the bathroom? Personally, I think in this situation, even given how over he is, Dom needs the victory. And I do think that the AAA Mega Championship should be on the line in this match, though it's not. I think that that is something that could add some extra intrigue. Especially because then, given what happened this past weekend on AAA, when Dom turned on El Grande Americano, after saying, "I'll watch your back," you could actually have Grande show up to cause a distraction, cause chaos for Dom, for JD, and maybe allow Danhausen to pick up the win. But that is really, for me, that is, again, an all filler match, no killer behind it. Penta and Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship. Again, babyface versus babyface, and there is way too much of that. This started the rivalry. Now it's coming full circle with both men as babyfaces. Chad Gable has done his apology tour, his redemption tour for Mexico and for Lucha Libre. But again, you need that definitive babyface, definitive heel in this match. And I think going into this, because you are in the state of Minnesota, Chad Gable's home state, you need him to come out and claim his first ever singles title. And I think that maybe this is now when we need to see the true Penta, and we get Penta Dark coming out of this with that heel turn. So, ladies and gentlemen, give me Chad Gable to come away as your new Intercontinental Champion. Sami Zayn and Finn Balor, the number one contender for the undisputed WWE Championship. Have I said all filler? No killer. Sami Zayn is owed a rematch. Sami Zayn should be involved. Not having to wait for Cody and Punk, because Punk, an opportunity fell out of the sky. Because Cody said when. Sami Zayn right now is a footnote in the history of the undisputed WWE Championship. And I said the match on SmackDown really made no sense for any of them to win. There was no right winner. There was no right person to lose. This match should not be happening. This match is going to be a silent sleeper. So don't sleep on this match. I think it's going to be fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, but it's just not needed. Bobby coming in saying he hopes LA Knight is done with the bloodline soon. Bobby, I am 100% with you there. This needs to end. Because this started with LA Knight teaming with the Usos at WrestleMania. Now all of a sudden he's going against them. And yes, Bobby, Chad Gable should be your Intercontinental Champion. I am 100% with you. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to the 6-woman tag team match. Fatal Influence versus the Bellas and Paige. I know there are people here at Turnbuckle Studios and within the program that believe that this is the time when the Bellas turn on Paige. I don't see it. Because it takes them away from that championship picture. I think you could go to the Bellas challenging for the tag team championships. Paige can then put her focus on JC Jane, on Blake Monroe, on Tiffany Stratton, and that women's U.S. championship. And I love the idea of that. That is new burgeoning rivalries for Tiffany Stratton. Puts some relevance on that U.S. title when you have a woman with the career and the history that Paige does in this business. You can put a shine on Blake Monroe challenging her fellow countrywoman for a contender spot. Again, you can build Paige and JC Jane. And I love that. It gives them both something to do. Yes, it's a continuation of this story, but I love this idea. You could, the other thing you could do, and I would love to see this, I would love to see it, but not for the reason you think. You have it done so that Paige gets taken out and the Bellas need a new tag team partner. And somebody I've said that needed to be involved in the build and something for SummerSlam. But now you can debut bring back AJ Lee as that surprise partner. That would do what it needs to do for me. So I've got 1, 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first 6 matches for SummerSlam. Yes, Bobby, thank you. Bobby also coming in and saying Paige should go after a single mid-card championship. 1000% she should. Or, yes, you could have the Bellas turn and have Paige introduce AJ as her new tag team partner to challenge the Bellas. I'd be good with that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, I will come back to preview the other half of SummerSlam.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night, we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays, let us power your dreams with the Xbox Showcase at 9 p.m. Friday, we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Rasslin Recap delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, turnbucklestudios.org, your home for the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and there is something for you each and every night of the week. Check them out under the shows section, or meet the team behind the shows, myself, Chris Best, Chris Parrish, Bubba Duke, Logan Thompson, and Carl Carafell. Click on our individual links to get our socials and watch our latest weekly live episodic programming. All of that and more at turnbucklestudios.org. Again, ladies and gentlemen, on a programming note, next Sunday, this show will not be available, but you can join Chris Best and the crazy cast of characters for the PLE Patrol as they give you their live reaction and analysis to all of the goings-on at SummerSlam, both nights 1 and 2 on Saturday and Sunday. I will be on holidays personally. So enjoy SummerSlam, enjoy the PLE Patrol, and ladies and gentlemen, let's continue on with the other show, the other night. So I covered in that a lot of the matches that I don't believe should be, or that really aren't PLE quality, in my opinion. Now we are going to go to the interim women's championship ladder match, which right now has Tiffany Stratton, Chelsea Green, Jade Cargill, and Charlotte Flair. And we will find out the final competitor this coming Friday when Julia takes on Lash Legend. Again, I believe that this could be where Julia really steps up. I think Julia belongs in that ladder match. I think that Lash and Nia need to take care of business with Charlotte and Jade. Charlotte and Jade are going to take each other out. We know that Chelsea and Tiffany have had a history against each other as well, recently seeming to form an alliance and potentially become contenders for the tag team championships. But I have to wonder if this is all a ruse for Chelsea to get that spot again that she took from Tiffany, only role reversal. Give me Julia in the ladder match to come out as your new interim women's WWE champion and take on Rhea Ripley when she comes back. And that is a fresh feud for both of those women as well. And I love that idea. I would also love to see Lyra Valkyria sneak in and steal that spot, but we know that that's just not going to happen. So give me Julia. Liv Morgan and Io Sky. Again, this is not a match that I really need or want to see. This is, again, the Judgment Day rivalries dragging on too long. Same rivalry, new story. Or new rivalry, same story. Same difference. Ladies and gentlemen, I need Liv Morgan to retain. This is her first championship defense since she regained the title at SummerSlam. but I do believe that it will be Io Sky. Does Stephanie Vaquer return to cause the distraction and cost Liv? Or does she come out costing Io Sky the title because she wants the championship for herself and she wants her rematch? We haven't seen Stephanie Vaquer since WrestleMania. And so, ladies and gentlemen, give me Liv Morgan to retain via shenanigans. I do think that Raquel and Roxanne are going to get involved in this match, which will lead to Stephanie Vaquer's return. But give me Liv Morgan. On to a match I learned about earlier today, and I've seen two different iterations. So what I know of is for the U.S. Championship, we are going to see Trick Williams versus the newly returned Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is that clearly defined heel in this situation, while Trick Williams is stuck in between trying to figure out who he is on SmackDown, where he fits in. We know that he's got his history with Carmelo Hayes, who I've also seen listed as being in this match, and who knows, he could be added this coming week. But, ladies and gentlemen, since we don't know who or what Trick Williams is, give me Baron Corbin off of a distraction from Carmelo Hayes, unless it is Melo getting added to the match. But you can still put me down for Baron Corbin as your new United States champion. Hell in a Cell. Brock Lesnar, Obafemi, in the state of Minnesota, where Brock Lesnar is from. This match, chaos, anarchy, hopefully the longest match we see between the three of them, and I hope it's not just a series of F5s and falls from grace. Is this where Brock hangs it up back home in his hometown? In his home state, does he hang it up? Or does Brock Lesnar defeat Obafemi and send him to the back of the line? We know that Oba, as the king of the ring, does have a world title match against a champion of his choice. But I'm not a big fan of hot-shotting him, so I like the idea that this match is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, give me Oba to win inside Hell in a Cell. I do have a feeling that this should main event one of the two nights, though it won't. Give me Oba to win. Give me Brock Lesnar retiring in Minnesota. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to the two main events. So the main event of night one for the undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. Who do you got? Bobby, who do you got? Cody or Punk? Personally, Cody had to just say when Punk's title opportunity fell from the sky. Nick Aldis made the match for CM Punk when he was on administrative leave from the position of GM and did it on a show that he's not even a part of. So give me CM Punk to retain, but give me heel Cody Rhodes coming out of this. Yes, I do believe that Cody is going to turn. And I think you're going to get the same thing that we got from John Cena. Cody's going to shake his hand, hug him, and kick him in the nuts. Or is this the time where, and again, maybe this is the position where you need, and I don't really want to go to this guy, but maybe this is where you need The Rock to come out and Cody say, I'll be your champ, Rock. And Rock gives him the title. But no, give me CM Punk to retain as your undisputed WWE champion. It is time for a new crop of champions to come up. And whether that's a Finn Balor getting another opportunity, whether it's Sami Zayn, whether it's an up-and-comer, it is time for that new, it's time for the changing of the guard, so to speak. So give me CM Punk to retain. And ladies and gentlemen, your main event for night 2, the match that has everything behind it. The history, the bond, the psychology, the mind games, the physicality. Roman Reigns versus Seth freaking Rollins. I have to factor in the bloodline, that 6-man tag, whether that's going night 1 or night 2. How does that play in? How does Solo play into all of this? Or does Seth Rollins have a new vision? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to state something very, very interesting here. Give me Roman Reigns to retain and get that victory over Seth, but he will not do it clean. He will not do it with the bloodline. He will not have the Usos or Jacob Fatu, but he will have his wise man. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Give me Paul Heyman and potentially, I'm going to say this, Bronson Reed to come in and cost Seth Rollins. Give me Roman Reigns to retain and strengthen the bloodline with Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our coverage of the locker room. That is our Rasslin recap for this week. I am OMD. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I want to thank you all for joining me. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, the world is better with you in it. From myself and all of us here at Turnbuckle Studios and the LRB, to those of you out there, wherever you are, good night, good luck. I'm out.
In the locker room, a guy you'll find loves bad hockey, teams can't deny. His best friend to shut the hand so true, loyal until his friend goes number 2. During the heat of the game, it's clear he's a champ when all else disappears. Rally the team with a wink and a cheer.